I was not so old when my dad, who's a Greek immigrant, basically explained to me how racism really works.
Okay.
And he's like, they want to tell you that it's white people only. But he's like, every culture is racist against someone, and that's what they're bonded over, is a mutual, like, it's a like for themselves, which is way less than the mutual dislike of another group.
That's true. I mean, it's all relative.
It is.
You know?
It is. And it's like, it's in, there's tiers to it, right? But it's kind of like, if you're English, you dislike the Irish.
Exactly.
And if you're Irish, you dislike the English and the Welsh. But if you're any of those three, you all hate the gypsies. Like,
you mean me? Well,
are there Indian gypsies? I feel like your people, like, I feel like the caste system pretty much prevented that.
So the thing is, gypsies, they low-key originated in the Indian subcontinent. So back when there was like the trade route and all of that happening through like Europe and Spain and all, gypsies were just, South Asian people that hopped on the trade route bandwagon and found themselves in these new places and new spaces. And actually, gypsy is the new word that you are no longer allowed to say according to PC culture. And I don't like that, because if you Google the word gypsy, it says people that originated in the South Asian continent, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, first of all, this is a term that I've been called. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I should still be allowed to say it.
Couple of questions.
I should still be saying it.
Who called you a gypsy? Was it another Indian person?
No. It was white people. White people.
Did they think you were Mexican at the time?
No, they knew I was very South Asian at the time. At the time, I was South Asian.
At the time, not anymore. No. She's been moving up in the world, guys. Or down in the world? Down in the world, really, the way that it works. That's why no one really takes racism against Indians seriously, because it's the problem the Jews have, where it's like, look, I'm not doubting the struggle. I'm just doubting the result of your struggle.
It made us stronger. Yeah. It's just making us stronger. I don't know.
Oh no, someone was really mean to you and you became all the doctors and engineers.
Yeah, we became the CEOs. Boo-hoo.
Yeah.
It's such a sad story.
It is hard to feel bad for Indian dude. Like I feel worse for Indian dudes sometimes.
I do. I really do.
Because it's like Indian dudes, like, they get the problem of being like, yeah, you're darker, people don't trust you. But it's also like
nobody wants to fuck them. That's
no one wants to fuck them, and everyone assumes they can't fight. Which is
including me. Yeah. They're soft as fuck. They are. Indian men are soft as hell. Yeah, they've been coddled by their mothers. They've been coddled by their entire families, their entire life. They've never had to fight for anything. Yeah, they really haven't.
It is crazy that it is the ethnicity, I guess, society, civilization that invented the Kama Sutra and like the giant fucking heavy clubs. It's like the they had the Rajas, which were like the great warriors, and it's like now it's like, yeah, no, they can't fuck or fight. They're really good at math though. Like that's
Okay, so I'm pretty sure the Kama Sutra was written by a woman and a man took credit. I'm like, don't fact check me on that.
Shocking. A woman with an opinion that's zero basis in reality.
Zero, literally zero.
She's like, this is how I feel about what probably happened, and no one's gonna correct me.
No, but have you read the Kama Sutra?
I've read the pictures.
Did you do the finger paintings? No, the Kama Sutra. So actually, only a portion of it is the pictures, and then the rest of it is.
Yeah, I know. There's actually like a moral code in it too.
Yeah, there's like a text. There's like a text to it, and it's all about like the relation of man and women together and how they should relate to each other, and feminism and masculinity and blah blah blah. And it feels like it was written by a woman. It feels too self-aware to have been written by a man. Oh, no offense.
But even an Indian man that you're claiming is effeminate, maybe that's what the trick was.
He was gay. That's what happened. Yeah, it was a gay man.
Just kidding, Indian dudes. I feel
Sorry, Rajesh. I just addressed like 250K of the population.
Yeah. By saying Rajesh.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, well, are we rolling? Are we live?
We are live.
Okay. I don't know. It's all, dude. Here's the thing: is it's just like I know what drugs you like.
That part.
That's where that happens.
That
You're just
part.
like, oh yeah.
It's also just like you kind of know the people that are like base degenerates, you know,
Right.
base
Yeah,
heads.
yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah.
like
No,
that's a whole thing.
No, me and Katie have been all over the world being degenerates with fucking loud music.
Let's fucking go. I know that there are frequencies I can no longer hear, specifically because of dubstep shows.
Do you ever just
Like,
hear them die on you? You just and you're just like, goodbye, friend.
my favorite place at a dubstep show is next to the speaker. I love touching the speaker.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like shaking.
And then someone's like, don't touch the speaker. And you're like, sorry.
Yeah, no, I have to. This is my Lord of the Rings. This is my moment.
I don't interrupt you.
Oh, we're going.
Wait, did you start us live?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what?
Wait, you got all the dubstep stuff?
Hey,
I was funny to me.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
I feel like
babe,
we need that.
fuck putting the sign outside. We're going to put it up there. And then whenever you're at the booth, you're
Get
just going to
two.
let us know we're rolling.
No, get another.
We'll get a second one because that one's really bright.
That one's important.
How bright?
So, too bright to be in this room.
Okay. Well, stop it and start it, and then we'll.
Okay.
So that we
Are
have
you
a.
sure this time?
Or wait, actually, how long did that go for? When you were like,
It's like only a minute.
Probably a minute.
Okay.
3 minutes. Yeah.
All
Minute,
right.
minute and a half. 3,
Bitter
2, 1.
"What's up, Priya?"
What's up, Dennis?
Fantastic. So I'm super excited to have you here, all the way out from New York. I know we were talking earlier. We were actually talking at Skankfest, which for those who don't know, me and Priya were actually attended Skankfest this year as artists, and both performed on the same night in the world famous Naked Roast.
Ooh, I didn't know it was world famous.
It's not. It's actually one of the best kept secrets ever. Because I was explaining that to people, and they're like, "Wait, you do what? In front of how many people?"
I try not to think about how many people it was because it's a. How did you? So, all I know is when I got hit up to do the Naked Roast, I didn't even have a chance to really cycle through. Oh my God, do you want to perform naked or not? I just was like, yes, I want to perform at Skankfest. If I have to be naked, why not?
See, I had a very similar reaction to it. So, my friend Celia Contreras did it last year. So we went as attendees last year and saw it, and I was like, "This looks like a blast." But you and I have a very different experience of it though, because it's like for you, it's like, "Oh my God, however many 100 people get to see me naked," and for me, it's like, however many 100 people have to see me naked.
Oh yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I
I
mean?
think as a girl, it's definitely a little.
Oh,
bit different.
it's 100% different.
You know, it's actually really interesting, and I thought it was a fun thing for me to do because if you've ever looked at my social media, like I'm not really like I'm not very body forward social media person. Like you don't like I'm not posting thirst traps. Like you don't really see me in like bikinis or anything like that. And I that's an active choice that I make where I'm just like my social media and my outward presence is going to be very much focused on my material and the things that I'm saying. And I want to hope and think that I got booked for Naked Roast Battle based on my roast jokes and not just my looks or whatever. I
Well,
wanted my titties to be secondary to my jokes.
I feel like that has to be true because they booked me. I mean, I do have some perky breasts, as people in the crowd pointed out. No, but yeah, I don't know. I absolutely loved it. I think it's one of the funnest things in comedy I've ever done. It's so interesting, it's so intimate, and just so fucking wild.
Dude, so I don't know if do you remember the first time that you went on stage and you had like a set that killed and you remember the high from that set?
Yeah.
Well, the high that I felt coming off of winning Naked Roast Battle, that's a high I'm going to be chasing for a very long time.
Yeah.
Let's just say
so
that.
me and Celia got to close it out Sunday night, and it went to a split decision, and and she edged me. But it was also one of those things like Celia's an amazing roaster, and and the funny thing about Naked Roast is the judges are naked too.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely hilarious. Shout out Zach D'Amico who puts on who he gives everyone the world's greatest pep talk, and it's like this wonderful thing, and you're going in, and like I enjoyed myself. Like I hope to be invited back next year, any year they have me.
Oh my God, absolutely. So first of all, I actually I had the opportunity to meet Zach maybe like a week right before Skankfest even happened. He was headlining a show for the Staten Island Comedy Festival that I happened to be on, and where I was actually doing a Kamala roast battle. I was
Oh,
doing a
God.
roast battle as Kamala.
I fucking love it.
And I also did a set, and it was great because I got to meet Zach, and so I actually got that pep talk a week in advance. And
Oh, nice.
you know, all of any kind of worry that I had about anything, honestly, he made it better that day. Like, Zach is actually really amazing because the community that he creates around that naked roast battle and the safe space that he creates, not to be like PC or whatever, but he makes a really amazing safe space.
No,
I just want to say
the funniest thing actually about that is the speech they have people give about, like, if you pull out a phone, you will get fucked up and you will never be allowed back.
No, Zach actually, the week in advance, he told me, he was like, we've had like CEOs of some of our sponsors be in the crowd and pull out their phone, and even they get kicked out.
Yeah.
And they've had to do it before, and they will do it. And I love that level of integrity, you know, where they're like, we don't care if you're the sponsor. This is the show. And
Yeah.
and so I think just the level of integrity involved is super important with a show like that. And oh my God,
I
I
mean-
felt safe the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, honestly,
I felt great.
I was blown away by all of Skankfest, and obviously, I've been through a lot of music festivals. Like, I've been I've had an artist wristband for Ultra Miami before because of business connections. Like, I've been backstage for a 100,000 person festival in Miami. I've done 5 EDCs, and touring as an artist. Katie and I got to do. Just based on connections and stuff, we got to go do artists on Ship Shomni and Holy Ship. And
Good for you guys.
we are fucking degenerates. If
No.
the people that understand what those things are, yeah.
Babe, I know. My ex-husband used to do marketing for the group that does Izu and Elro and all of those kinds of events. And so, yeah, I got to do artist wristband, Izu,
Oh, yeah.
New York City.
You get it though. So it's like
Yeah.
you see it, and it's like a lot of festivals. It's like, oh, they're all about this stuff, but they're at their heart, they're corporate profit transactional. It's like Skankfest, and I don't want to say this just to be like sucking up because I hope to get invited back, but it was really amazing how well they treated all of the artists, not just like the headliners.
Oh,
but it's like
absolutely.
it's like me. I'm a nobody. My plus one is a nobody in this world, right? Like nobody knows what they're doing, and they the person that runs the festival comes by and shout out Christine. She comes by the first night, shakes everyone's hand, gets to know everybody. It's like, oh, are you on Naked Roast? Oh, hey, thank you for doing it. It's like so pleasurable. And then like they gave everybody yearbooks and all these things, and it was like it's and for to be because it's like I've been at music festivals where their operating expense is millions of dollars of stuff. And and it's like Skankfest is treated from everything I saw, they treated everybody from attendee to staff to talent better than any place I've ever been. And I've been all over the world doing shit like that.
Oh, no, absolutely. They treated us amazing. They fed us. They gave us access to unlimited alcohol all the time, which was actually, why'd they do that? Like, why did they do that? And it's funny because I remember the first night getting there and I was like, okay, so this is a given that this, actually the first night when I got there, it was the night when ICP was performing. Did you see the ICP performance?
Oh my God.
Were you there?
So, because it's a secret guest, right? And
Yeah.
everyone's like, it's a secret guest. And then you hear rumors. And I remember, because we get there, you check in, you get your credentials. And, there's one, that's also the interesting night is there's one green room, like one tiny green room. It's pre-party, essentially. Like the actual, the fest hasn't started yet. But you're just like, wait, what's going on outside? Oh, it's going to be Crack D'Amico. It's going to be the Insane Clown Posse followed by Crack D'Amico.
Insane.
Absolutely.
Insane.
Dude,
Fucking
it was-
insane.
I also just remember there was that moment where it's like, oh yeah, it's like because I think comedy operates a little bit differently, especially from the music industry, where if you're around DJs, it's like there's definitely a pecking order, but it's like in the green room, the green room at Skankfest, it was just comics, and there were people that were just like very famous and top of the game, and they are just taking the piss out of people that have been doing comedy, for a few years and are there for whatever. And it was so much goddamn fun. It was fun to watch.
Skankfest was really fucking fun. Like being in that green room that first night, I actually remember. So I was hanging with a few New York City comics. one of the New York City comics, I'm not going to say who, but he got a little tipsy, and
That was also super fun to watch because you could see the people that, because I remember I specifically was like, I had a drink and I looked at my phone, and then I was like, I'm waiting 20 minutes until I take the next drink because I'm not going to be the dude that's blacked out in the green room.
Oh, yeah,
And then I remember
absolutely.
locking eyes with a couple of those guys and just being like, live your lives, boys. That's no judgments, but I know who I am as a person and I know what I'll fall into.
absolutely, especially as like a girl, I was like,
Oh,
all right,
yeah.
all right. Do I want to drink all this mezcal? Absolutely, but I'm going to wait. And no, I definitely saw a New York City comic who I'm very, very fond of, very funny guy. And I just look over and he is drunk and he is talking to Shane Gillis and he is slapping Shane Gillis on the back and laughing. I was like, oh my God. This is a very level-headed,
yeah.
level.
No, everyone was
it
on
levels
level,
the playing
even
ground.
field. Yeah,
Yeah.
People are waiting in line at the bar in the green room, and it's just like, oh, you're a headlining act, and you're 3 people behind naked
Yeah.
roasters. You know what I mean?
It was actually interesting because, I did Kill Tony when I was in Austin a few months back, and I was like, Tony Hinchcliffe is one of those people where you're like, do I say hi to him or do I not say hi to him? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I saw him and I was like, do I say hi to him? Do I not say hi to him? And so I was like, I'm just gonna not. He's a very busy man.
Yeah. Everyone's trying to talk to him.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
everybody's trying to talk to him. He's got a lot of shit to do. There's probably. So I was like, I'm not gonna bother him. I'm just gonna do my thing. And he is such a gracious person. He said hi to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So I was on the second night, Sunday night of Naked Roast, as were you, and then there was the Friday night event.
I
for
went
it.
to that one as well.
Yeah, I went to that, and that I met all the other Naked Roasters because it's kind it is kind of like this cool fraternity of like comics where you're like, wow,
Yeah.
we're the only ones that really kind of get it. You know what I mean?
The only person I knew before that was Sabrina. I knew Sabrina.
Yeah, Chase Harder came. So we rolled deep to Naked Roast this year.
You did.
We had an amazing showing of people, and most of us either won or went against each other, which was beautiful. But I was in the crowd, and Tony Hinchcliffe and Ari Matar come over, and they're talking next to me, and I look over, I'm like, oh shit, you guys are standing in the crowd talking about it. And then I was telling Tony, I was like, yeah, I'm going in on Sunday. I was like, should I do a gimmick? And he's like, nah, just own it. And I was like, just great, just great, solid advice. You know what I mean?
Wait, Dennis. Are you trying to tell me that there's a chance that Tony Hinchcliffe was there on Sunday, the night that we did our Naked Roast?
He was there Friday. I don't know if he was still there Sunday. I mean, you're going to have to go back on Kill Tony and ask if he's seen you naked.
I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to ask. You know what? I'm actually so part of me is so happy that
you would just rather live with the fantasy. You're just like, I can just default that he's seen me naked. Maybe thinks about it every once in a while.
Yeah. But see, the thing is, I'm actually really happy that we went on Sunday because when I came off of the stage and when we went out to the crowd and all of that, I was like, part of me was like the paranoia of who has seen me naked kind of started setting in, and I was like, who's seen me naked? Who hasn't? But then the people who have seen you naked make it really known. They kind of do one of those.
Yeah.
Or there were some guys that came up to me after and they're like, can I follow you on Instagram? And I'm like, I don't know who you are, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, again, we had such a different experience with that because there's a lot of guys that are like, oh, dude, every guy came up to me and were like, bro. Because the thing that you hope for first is someone's like, that joke was savage because it's Naked Roast. I mean, you know what I mean? You're, and me and Celia went hard. There were times where people were groaning in the crowd and then the laughter started. And it's it's Skankfest, so it's the fans that go to Skankfest, they're a savage bunch. So when you get a room full of groans before the laughter, that's a special kind of feeling.
Oh, it definitely is. It's almost better than the laughter.
It really was. But it was funny though because I forget who I was telling. I was telling somebody this, and I was like, so I do a cold plunge all the time. I feel like it makes my brain work better, and it really helps my nerves. And that was one thing where it's I didn't feel a lot of nerves going into it. But I had made a decision And I like part of me was like, okay, this is no one's gonna believe this. It's gonna sound like I'm trying to spin it off as an excuse, but it's like I took an ice cold shower for 4 minutes because that's how long I cold plunged for, and then I did it right before the naked roast started, and I went up there and I felt great the entire time. I felt sharp and I felt good, and then I was just kind of like, well, your penis is already gonna be tiny because of all the adrenaline, right? Because I would talk. A couple of guys took Viagra. Like I'm not going to name names, but they thought, hey, well, I'll take a Viagra. You know, I won't be hard, but I'll have at least a little bit chub. And they were like, nothing. So I was like, because that's what I found out Friday, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, I found that out Friday, and then I was like, well, I can't have the biggest dick up there, but I can definitely have the smallest. I get up there, and there's a girl in the front row, and she's like, that dude has 2 belly buttons. She's sitting right next to my wife. Just
Shout out
so
Katie.
awkward.
Katie's-
Yeah, shout out Katie, running the board right now. But it was just a funny thing where I was like, is it better to have 0 nerves and know your penis is like inside your body, or? But it's also like it's mostly guys in that room. You know what I mean? Like the skank fence attendance is, I would probably say 80-20. You know what I mean?
Male to female, absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. I knew for a fact. I was like, all I know is like I have great titties, and I need my jokes to be better than my titties. Like that's all I was focused on. I was like, we're gonna eat salads for a week straight, and we're gonna have the best. We're gonna have better jokes than titties. Like, and that's all I really wanted because I think I came pretty savage, honestly.
You did. You did.
I came pretty savage.
I mean, because I remember because it was me and you. There was the kid from Tennessee, and I forget there was somebody else in between us. It's killing me because I know that I'll see him and I forget about it. I just can't remember off the top of my head. But that was like this amazing, like intimate moment because they don't let anyone else back there. You know what I mean? Because you're basically like you're in like a back avenue of the theater essentially, and they block it off. And it's funny because they're blocking it off even from like headlining acts. And they're like, no, you can't come through. And it's like, I'm so and so's manager. Like, we don't care. There's naked people back here.
Well,
nothing.
Actually, I don't know if you realized, but Ari Shafir and Joe DeRosa were having a conversation in the corner.
Yeah, they were hanging out.
I actually.
Yeah, they were hanging out. But Ari does the address for Naked Roast.
Yes,
though.
and he was but the thing is, I feel like kind of an asshole because I didn't know who Joe DeRosa was, and so I come back backstage from the roast, and I put my little robe back on, and I'm sitting on the couch and just decompressing for a second, and Joe DeRosa is sitting on the couch, and we're talking, we're cutting it up for a second. I was like, I don't know who the fuck this guy is. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he seems pretty chill, and then he was like, and then I realized he was Joe DeRosa.
Now you're like, I gotta go buy a sandwich or something.
Yeah, and then I was like, wow, bad on me for being a New York comic who's been to Joey Rose's multiple times and seen the picture and then never actually known what fucking Joe DeRosa looks like. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's absolutely hilarious. Yep. So, but I will say though, but that little camaraderie of all the people that are like in line and getting ready to go up is like was so fun. The other thing that was absolutely fucking amazing was the secret show this year was Kill Tony. Mm-hmm. So for any comedians that were at Skankfest that were paying attention, they sent an email.
That fucking email. Who's checking their email at Skankfest?
Me, bitch. Honestly, I've never.
Were you in the bucket?
Yeah, here's the thing. It was only like 40 or 50 people, and we're in this tight little hallway. And that was like one of the coolest, most intimate moments. And I made some amazing friends. Shout out Connor Logren, who actually was on Kill Tony and got drawn. He just ripped the guitar. So
Connor's sick. Yeah,
dude. Connor's the homie. Like me and him, he is the best kind of retarded.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Austin is blessed to have him. Yeah, they really are.
No, so like him and I are thick as thieves. When he comes out to Phoenix, I'm putting him up. When I got to Austin, he's gonna put me up, and we're gonna get in a lot of trouble, and I'm gonna do my best not to get arrested.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you hang out with that kid, and you're just kind of like trouble will commence, and you're just gonna try and ride it like a jet ski.
That's how I kind of felt like with Celia, honestly.
Oh, that's factual. Yeah.
So that Sunday night we were partying in your hotel room.
Oh yeah.
And that next morning when we left, me and Celia, we looked at each other and we're like, let's go gamble. And we're like, it's 11 a.m. let's go gamble. And we did. We
yeah.
sat down at a blackjack table, and for some reason, I put on my grills.
Dude, I forgot about that. Oh my God. So,
And these people from the Midwest at the table with us were like, they were like, oh, that's real neat. No, I was like, neat? These are grills, bitch. Like, what are you talking about?
this is why your sister thinks you're black.
You're right.
Fucking, dude,
You're not wrong.
I do like when cultural appropriation happens from the Asians, because you're like, we were colonized. We're allowed to take someone else's culture. And so you can get it at a swap mart.
Yeah. Can I just be from Queens in peace? Like, can somebody just let me be from Queens in peace? Like, my God, I was raised on BET, okay? I went home after school and I
why
watched
is that?
BET.
Why were you raised on that, or is that where you were just directed by your classmates?
I don't know. It was when I came home from school, it was you watch
Holy
TRL
shit.
and then you watch BET.
It's because you had Indian parents and they wouldn't spring for extra channels.
They wouldn't spring for extra channels, and they weren't home. They were working because they're hardworking people. Okay,
That's factual.
They weren't home. I was low key a latchkey kid, and yeah, the TV raised me, and I grew up in Queens, and so my mom actually she works for the government on Jamaica Avenue in Queens, which is a very popular street where they sell a lot of fake sneakers. So. I grew up my entire life like visiting her at her office, and all of my clothes shopping for school, she would do it around her office. And so I was wearing baby fat to tennis lessons. Like that's just what it was.
Yeah. That's fucking amazing. That is absolutely fucking amazing. Oh man, that cracks me up. That absolutely cracks me up, because I do. Speaking of grills, so we're in the hotel room. It's morning essentially by the time the festival closes and you get out of it, and everyone's kind of like decompressing. And you're right though, the high of that of crushing naked is so inexplicable. You know what I mean?
Can't even talk about it.
You know what I mean? Because you're like, because it's this thing where it's like
my titties are swinging, and so are these jokes.
Well, yeah, but it's like you're supposed to feel vulnerable, right? And you do, like when you walk out. But it's like as soon as you get that first that roar of the crowd and you come in and you get into it, there's nothing quite like the way your rebuttals pop when you're fucking naked and you can feel your balls jiggling while you're fucking making somebody.
The confidence hits on a different level.
Absolutely.
When you're naked up there. It really does.
Which you would think is counterintuitive, right? You would think like, oh, I'm self-conscious. But at that point, like, it's like jumping into a cold pool. Like, you're already there. You know how to swim. You just swim, right?
So the thing is, I've done a naked show before. So there is a producer in New York. Shout out Billy Prashida. So he runs the Naked Comedy Show in New York, and I had done that show one time before I did Naked Roast Battle. So for me in my head, when they reached out to me for Naked Roast Battle, I was like, I've done a naked comedy show and I've done a shit ton of roast battles,
right? And
it's just a matter of putting those together. And the Naked Comedy Show, I didn't know how I would feel about it until I did it. Mm-hmm. So it was one of those things where I was, call me a savage, but I never turned down stage time. So when I got an opportunity to do a naked comedy show, I was like, fuck it. It's a show. It's another rep, you know? And I'm pretty comfortable with my body. I've been to Burning Man,
oh, nice.
Yeah, I've been to Burning Man. Titties are titties. And I honestly, like, in my opinion, bodies are bodies. Like, I don't think bodies should be sexualized all the time. And so I did a naked comedy show. And Billy is actually really great. He has a great pep talk, too. He has a really great pep talk. And one of the parts of his pep talk is like, if there's any moment you feel like not doing this, even if I've already called your name up to come up there and you feel like walking away, you can. So that just made me feel so comfortable, so safe. And I went up there. The audience was so supportive. Well, in that case, the audience is actually, some of them are naked too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you're looking out at the front row and you're like, okay, so there's some dicks out. It's mostly dicks.
No, like I said, there's a demographic for that is undeniable. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And so, yeah. honestly, I felt like I was a little bit very well equipped to come into Naked Roast Battle because
Bend
done
your
a
mic
shit ton of
little
roast
bit towards your face
battles.
again.
Done a shit ton of roast
You can
battles.
just adjust it towards your face a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Done a shit ton of roast battles. Done a naked comedy show. So I was like, it's just combining these two things, and I wasn't nervous at all.
Yeah. No,
Almost to like a psychotic degree.
that is actually one of the things that I felt, because when you're sitting there, you're like, the nerves are coming, right? Like I got like, because that is the one thing too, is I took it very seriously. I didn't do anything else the whole day. I didn't go around the fest. I just drilled my lines on to like,
Same.
and shout out Chase Harder and Connor Logren. They helped me workshop my jokes, and we got things tight. Like we broke things down, put it back
Same.
together, chopped all the words out, and it's like I felt like, okay, these are hot. And then it was just like, am I going to be able to remember them? Because it's like when the adrenaline kicks in, how easy is it to have recall? And so then I probably drilled them like 100 times, right? And then, I got there and I'm like, okay, well, I take the cold shower. I'm like, that was miserable. Like, and whatever happens next can't be more miserable than that. And then I'm sitting there, and then you go and you're in the tunnel, and you're waiting, and we're all hanging out, and we're having small talk, and you can see the people that are really nervous, and we're trying to talk them down. We're trying to just like, I remember I was coaching somebody on how to breathe, like breathing through anxiety.
I remember it was my opponent.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, in retrospect, you might not have liked that. No, but it was like he was. You could tell
No,
he was.
I was coaching him beforehand as well.
No,
It's all
you were.
love.
All jokes aside, yeah, because that was the thing where it was just like, this is special and it was good. But I remember talking to him, and because I remember like while I was coaching him through, I was like, why am I like? He's not the weird one here. I am. You know what I mean?
That you're like weirdly comfortable with
Yeah,
this
that
whole
I'm just-
situation.
that
You're
I'm
like,
just like,
this
well-
is normal, bro. And
Yeah.
he's the one that's like, what the fuck are we doing? And you're like, this is normal.
Yeah, no. Because it was like, I just remember having like a thought that it was like, am I on mushrooms? Because I just kind of feel like I'm just going to suffer some humiliation for the good of the universe right now, and it's going to be good for everyone. And I was just, okay.
It was like
a
weirdly
crazy thought.
cathartic,
It
though.
really was. Like, to a silly extent. To like, you know what I mean? It's like someone slipped me acid and then hypnotized me, and you're like, I'm fine with it.
It was like weirdly cathartic. And you know what? So me and Menno, we're both from New York City.
Yeah.
And I was aware of him as a roaster, but I don't know him that well.
Yeah.
And so before the roast battle, honestly, great roaster. He's a great guy, also a great person. And I just saw him getting nervous before the roast. And I was like,
I could see that.
I was trying to psych him up. Like I was trying to bring his nerves down and psych him up. Like, this is going to be a great experience. It's going to be super fun. And I saw him getting really nervous. I was like, dude, give me a hug. And I tried to just give him, one of those like 3-second plus oxytocin hugs.
Yeah.
I was like, he needs an oxytocin hug right now.
Engage your parasympathetic nervous system and calm down kind of shit. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry your mom didn't love you enough, but I'm here now. Hugs. And yeah, I didn't want him to be nervous for the roast. I
Yeah.
wanted it to be a great show.
You guys had a great battle too. Like he did well.
It
You know
went
what I-
into overtime.
Yeah, it did. And that was the thing too, because it's like, so you obviously are a prolific roaster. For a lot of people that don't know, you're damn near probably 100 roasts, give or take.
Just about.
Yeah,
Just about.
So it's like I'm on the opposite.
In
of
a
that.
short amount of time.
Yeah, exactly. Too. Like you're getting in reps and you're staying active. You know what I mean? Like I haven't, like, I've roasted a little bit and I haven't done it a ton. And not only have I not done it a ton, I was going against Celia, who a day earlier roasted Zach. Roasted the guy that she roasted Zach D'Amico in Roastmasters. And, I was hanging out with her when Lewis came up and said, hey, you guys were, the best of the event. That should have been the main event. There's not a main event the way we do it. That was the best of the weekend. Congratulations. And I was like, okay, shit. And here's the other thing. Celia's roasting Zach. Me and Zach have similar body types. Whatever stuff she didn't use on Zach, she's gonna be on me.
That's
and so,
hilarious.
but that, thank God we sat down and I like hear all my roasts and everyone helped me get the words out of it and get the rhythm into it and etc. So it was like I went to overtime with Celia and I was like, just that, I was like, I'm so fucking, it was like, that was so good to just go in there. It's also just funny when you start talking to the judges and then you're going back and forth and you remember the judges are naked, so like the roast ends and then you're like, oh yeah, they're all naked here.
Wait, what was so funny is as soon as I got booked for Naked Roast Battle, I I thought of the concept of me pulling a joint out from under my titty immediately. So actually, when I came on stage, I took off my robe, threw it away. I made a creative choice to keep my Doc Martens and my hat on.
Oh yeah.
So I was naked, Doc Martens, yes, hat, yes. And I pulled a joint out from under my titty. And so I told Celia about I'm pulling the joint out from under my titty. And she was like, bitch, I'm pulling a piece of pizza out from under my titty. I was like, like it's actually amazing.
Dude, so the fun part, so I got to go out first. So I did heinies into like a deep sumo squat. And then I just remember, it was either Steve Ranzini or Chris Vega, who both fucking absolutely amazing. But I could hear one of them like,
Chris Vega had the best dick of Naked Roast Battle. I just want to point that out.
He was sitting down. So I can't comment on that, but he did call my wife exceedingly mid after the battle, which I thought was hilarious.
What?
Oh no, he's fun, dude. Chris is fucking hilarious. Shout out Chris from Brooklyn. Anyone who's not seen his Instagram, he's an absolute gem. But because here's the thing, he's like, you're from Scottsdale, Arizona. He's like, how did you find the middest girl in Scottsdale? And I was like, thanks for keeping her humble, Chris. Also, later there's a picture on the Skankfest website where Chris is holding a bottle of Maker's Mark, and I don't know why I did this. Like, I literally don't. Chris, I apologize about this, but he's holding a bottle of Maker's Mark, and it's me. I think it's Connor, and then Chris is in the middle, and he's holding a bottle of Maker's Mark. And I, for whatever reason, slowly deep throat that bottle of Maker's Mark, and the guy just kept taking pictures. And Chris was like, "You're gay." And then he walked away, and the next time I saw him, he had a different bottle, which was the right response.
No, Chris is a nice guy.
Dude, he's a super nice guy.
He's
So fucking, and he's fucking awesome. Like, he was fun.
He was super fun. He judged also on Friday night.
Yeah.
So that's when I saw his penis. And he had, I want to say, one of the best penises of Naked Roast Battle. If we're going to do that. If we're going to comment on that.
It's a free country. You can comment on whoever. I mean, it's not like we're going to clip just that part and then tag Chris in it. Just, a little editor's note there. That'll just be funny. No, that honestly though,
I could have just DM'd him and said that.
You very well could.
Yeah.
I'm sure you did. We were fucking.
No, I didn't.
You probably. I would check your messages. We were going pretty hard in the fucking the morning after.
I would never do that. That's crazy.
That's wild. Wow, you look guilty.
What? I didn't.
You keep breaking eye contact.
I didn't
every
do
time
anything. What are you talking about?
I should just slowly put your jacket on, tuck your collar up.
What are you? I'm leaving. No, I'm kidding.
No, the judges were awesome. Actually, the funniest one was Joanna Angel, who's super famous porn star and one of the nicest, sweetest ladies.
So sweet.
And the other thing too is I didn't realize how short she was. That was the first. That was like the thing, because it's like you have so much adrenaline, like when you're done, right, and you're going off and it's over, and you're like, she's so nice, and she's in the green room, and I was saying thank you for doing that and all that stuff, and all I could think was like, she's so short. Like,
actually, when you talk about the adrenaline when you come off from the show, that's how I felt. And honestly, I really appreciate Chris, not to bring it back to Chris, but I really appreciate him because I was like, there's no tequila back here. And he made it his business to go find a bottle of tequila
I remember
for me.
that.
And I appreciate that so much. I really do.
Yeah, no. And then we all had a nice little drink.
We did. We had a little drink. But Joanna, it was so funny because when I came out there and, you're doing like your little intro remarks or whatever. And I said, I don't have enough daddy issues to be a stripper, but I have just enough to do some bullshit like this. And Joanna was like, you don't need daddy issues to be a stripper.
That's fucking fantastic. Yeah, no, I mean, but the Skankfest as a whole, like it's such an amazing experience, and it's one of those things too where you're just like, okay, like if you've been to festivals, like it's a similar concept. It's an organization of things. You're getting people in and out, and it's just like, it's somebody described it to me as this, and I didn't really understand it until I did it. But they're like, it's kind of punk rock. Like,
it's hella punk rock.
You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah.
There's naked shit. There's Zach Amico is getting fucking money stapled to his body. It's like a little jackass. Like it's like a mini. It's like, dude, I will say, like, a lot of the time, the way that I am and the way that I live, like, I walk through life and I walk through the world just feeling very other a lot. And Skankfest was one of the first times where I was like, I don't feel other here. Like, I really feel like I'm supposed to be here. And I don't feel strange and I don't feel weird for the way that I talk, for the way that I dress, for the way that I act.
Okay,
like,
you should feel a little weird when you're walking around in platform Doc Martens and grills.
let me live. Can I live? Can I be?
Oh my God.
Can I go to the casino at 11 a.m. in grills? Yes, I can.
Okay,
At Skankfest, yeah.
Okay, here's one for anyone listening. So not only did we just absolutely get after it after Skankfest is over, everyone's partying in the hotel room. At about 8 a.m., Priya looks over at me and she's just like, "I need to do a job interview," and I'm like, "Huh?" She's grills in her mouth. I'm gonna leave out all the other descriptions, but I'm sure you guys
Cocaine
can put
in
them
the
together.
nose. Yeah. Grills in the mouth, cocaine in the nose.
But so she's like, "I'm gonna go to the corner of this room and I'm just gonna close the curtain and I'm gonna do a job interview."
Yeah, Dennis, I also borrowed your button-up shirt to do the job interview.
Holy shit! Yeah, I just have the perfect fat dude black paisley shirt, and she's like, "No, this makes me look very Indian. This is perfect.
perfect.
This is perfect. I'm just gonna tie it off at the bottom, leave it open. It's a blouse. No one can tell from under." Oh man, that shit was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I
Dude,
mean,
the best part though is Connor not realizing you weren't doing a bit. It took him a solid 4 minutes to be like, "Hey, oh, she's really doing a job interview."
I really was doing a job interview. Was it a job I wanted? Absolutely not. If it was, I would have rescheduled it. But I was like, you know what? This is honestly, job interviews are kind of like comedy.
I was just thinking how you're like, "I never turned down stage time." You were just. Dude, I was just thinking, I was like, there's just some recruiter right now that's just like, "This bitch is wasting my time." And you're like, "They're always
Absolutely.
wasting my time. Fuck them."
Literally. They really are. And you know what? Job interviews are kind of like comedy, where it's like you need to get the reps in before you get good. And so it was another rep so that it was another repetition of saying the things and doing the things until the right thing came along. And I felt crazy as hell. Honestly, part of me, like, so usually when I do comedy, I do it absolutely sober, aside from Naked Roast.
Right.
I had a few shots of tequila before
But I
that.
mean, yeah, but you weren't really drunk even for Naked
No.
Roast. Like
No.
because I remember we were all hanging back there and we were like, "All right, one for the nerves," kind of deal, right?
Mm-hmm. But typically, like, I like to go up on the stage totally sober. And so for an interview, I was like, wouldn't it be so fun if I tried to see what a job interview was like high as hell and just fucked up? It was for me, honestly. That interview was for me.
Was it Napoleon that told you to take your grill out, or was he still? Somebody had told you take your grills out.
Napoleon was still there. Yeah, he said. He said take your girls out. But then I put them back in for the casino. That's my good luck charm, baby. Gold teeth.
Oh man. So I hope. So I've been hearing a lot of rumors that Skankfest is not going to be in Vegas next year, and I know that they got to try and move it around and keep it in. I hope it's in Vegas because I just have such a good time. Like, Skankfest ends and then you're just in Vegas, like the Rome.
Yeah, it's the perfect backdrop.
It really is.
The way that I can describe Skankfest is it felt like wholesome debauchery.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. So
there was like, it was like debaucherous, but there was like this like wholesome element to it where like you felt taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah. No. That's exactly because that's a perfect way to phrase it. I will say a fun thing though is that I got COVID after Skankfest this year.
Obviously,
And
bitch.
you know, yeah. Well, and it's.
I don't know if it was COVID. It must have been its own strain, honestly.
So I got COVID really bad during COVID. It like nearly killed me. Like I had like immediate heart failure. It stopped me at my job. And then I went back to work. And then I had to get the vaccine to go back to work, and that fucked me up. So I got medically retired, which is why I get to pursue this now. So it's like, it's one of those, everything happens for the best kind of shit. But funniest part of the whole thing though is I go to Skankfest, I come back, I have COVID. I'm sick. I'm in the hospital. It's an issue because they have to watch because of my heart. And I'm listening to Dave Smith's podcast, Part of the Problem, and he's like, "I have COVID," and I'm like, He's like, so if anyone has COVID, I'm sorry. And it's like, I remember going up and talking to him in the little tiny green room behind one of the main. It's not the main stage, the Kiourkas stage.
Oh, that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was just literally curtains. But I walked up, I talked to him, said I was a huge fan. It's tiny. You're not trying to talk to him some of the things, so I lean in, shake his hand, whatever. And I'm like, I bet you I gave. So it's like in my mind, it's like, fuck, Dave Smith gave me COVID. It's like more likely I gave Dave Smith COVID because I was running around and he's not partying anymore. He's got a wife and kids. He's not running the same kind of debauchery that I subjected myself to for 96 hours. But it was just a funny thought while I was in the hospital. I was like, Dave Smith gave me COVID.
Yeah.
But I don't know how.
I got sick after Skankfest also.
Oh yeah.
Everybody did.
Well, here the reason when you said that, the reason I brought up
I
Dave
got a
Smith,
tattoo at Skankfest too.
I should have done that. I didn't, but I probably didn't need it because I got COVID. But the reason I was bringing up Dave Smith is last year Dave Smith said something that it just sticks with me. He's like, if AIDS were a place, it would be Fremont Street. And it's just like, that is just like, that should be like the iconic logo of Fremont Street.
So many fake Michael Jacksons everywhere. Oh my God.
And not one of them got choked to death.
Right? And not one of them was white. That's the part that Michael Jackson was white when he died. Don't forget that. Michael Jackson actually died the same day I graduated high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not to age myself for people that, whatever. But he died the exact same day that I graduated high school. I'll never forget that. That entire summer was people playing Michael Jackson. But
you know what I like? So because I'm a bit older than you, and in my time,
you?
yeah,
Wait.
I'm 37.
oh yeah, you are older.
Yeah, you're like I'm not gonna age myself, but you'll happily back away from that one. That's fine. But so as I was coming up, whenever someone that was famous and black would get accused or convicted of something, the black community would 100% stick with them. OJ, Bill Cosby. You know what I mean? They're just,
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly. Yeah, they're in there. Yeah, but I think they've kind of gotten beaten down to the point. It's like, yeah, but
I think he's guilty.
he's hanging out with Puff Daddy for a long time.
You mean the diddler?
The dude P Diddler.
The diddler.
Here's the part that kills me about this is my black friends were like, yeah, Puff Daddy did that shit. Puff Daddy. But it's also just like when you go back and you
Jay-Z did that shit. I just want to be Jay-Z definitely did that shit. I don't trust motherfuckers from Brooklyn. First of all, I don't.
Oh, that's the part. That's the part where you're like
50 Cent, he's from Queens. He's our peoples. But those Brooklyn motherfuckers, they be on some.
50
different.
Cent was the first famous black dude to turn against other famous black dudes,
Yes.
publicly. He was the first.
And I
he
love
was the
him for
first.
that.
He was the first one to be like, R. Kelly weird as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like-
and he was right. That's the thing is 50 is usually right. But the people that 50 does not mess with, he's usually right about them. 50 did also openly endorse Donald Trump after he won, though, which I thought was really funny. But they're also
Say what you will about 50 Cent. He's a smart businessman.
very smart businessman, and so is Donald Trump. And something about both of them, they literally grew up blocks away from each other. They're both from Queens.
So you can tell that neighborhood went to shit. Nah, just kidding.
I
But
mean, how did it go to shit? I came from that area. I turned out
the
fine.
Indians are taking it back.
We're taking it back. You know what's so funny about the area I grew up in? So, the area I grew up in, it was primarily Italian and Irish when I was growing up. We were one of the token Indian families on the block.
Okay.
And in school and whatever. And then over time, it became very Indian. And the white people really resented it. They really did. And they moved further into Long Island because I grew up it was kind of on the Long Island border. So all the white people moved further into Long Island. And now, in these last few years, they actually opened a migrant, I don't even know what to call it, but it's basically a migrant camp. It is. It is. I don't know.
I do love, I love hanging out with people from New York and LA and watching you guys run the filter of how you're supposed to speak. Because you almost speak a slightly different language than people from Phoenix and Texas. You know what I mean? Especially like, and I say this like specifically comedians, because it's like I understand the way normal people talk. It's like regional, but it is funny to watch comedians like put themselves through like almost like a chat GPT for like phrasing session where they're like, "Can I say migrant camp?" It's like,
That's what it is. It's a field. So there's a YMCA in my neighborhood, and there's a big open field that used to be across from the YMCA. And about a year and a half ago, they built just tents on tents on tents on tents, and I call it the slums. I call it the slums, and it's, I think at least like 1,000 people must be housed there, based on the size of it, and it's like a migrant camp. I don't know what the fuck it is, but I don't. Why the fuck did the government put it in the middle of nowhere in Queens?
Because all of the border states that for a long time were like immigration's a problem, and everyone was like, "Fuck you, racists," and they were like, "Okay, we're gonna send them all to you." And here's when I knew that Donald Trump was gonna win the election, and I'm not saying that because I was for or against it. I'm just saying there was a certain moment when I was like, oh, I'm going to be able to write darker shit and put it online. You know what I mean?
There's the silver lining.
There is a silver lining. But there was a moment. So it's like I was born in Chicago. I've had black friends for a very long time. Like it's like when I moved to Chicago, it was easier from Chicago. It was easier for me to make friends with black friends than Mexican friends, and that was like a weird thing growing up. But I still have black friends in Chicago, and I remember talking to one of them. Because it's like, you know, we commiserate on how bad the Bears are, right? That's where it is. And I remember very succinctly just being like, yeah, so what's it feeling like there? He's like, yo, my mom's voting for Trump. I'm like, Dorlinda is voting for Trump.
Bro.
Dorlinda, who like is God bless you and Ronald Reagan's the devil, is voting for Trump. In the south side of Chicago. And then it's just, dude, it's also funny because she would call all the Mexicans Puerto Ricans because she was born in New York.
Okay.
You know, but it's like, you know what I mean? Well, that's the other thing that's like really fun when you realize like there's a certain kind of racism that other races have.
Regional.
Yeah, it's yeah, exactly. And there's this thing where you're kind of like, why? But, you know, because there's definitely just a moment in that where you're like, what is happening with this? Like what, like how? But because that was something my dad explained to me. Because my dad's Greek immigrant, moved from Greece and then settled basically in Chicago, where there was just a ton of Greek immigrants. Because Greeks were like European Mexicans in the 60s and 70s. Like they would come here, they would work.
I think you guys got maybe bunched in with the Italians.
We were the wave after.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But
you guys probably caught that same Italian kind of hate.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit of that Italian hate.
So it's like the Italians in this, like we live, so because like the Greeks would basically be the bufferhood neighborhood between the Italian neighborhoods and the black neighborhoods. Like that would be Greek town. Yeah, just get those titties right around.
And we're just adjusting.
We're adjusting. But my dad had explained something to me one time, and he's like, black people don't dislike racism. Black people don't like racism against them. Black people love to hear about other races hating other races. And I'm like, I don't think that's right, Dad. And he's just like, really? He's like, the next black guy I see, I'm going to talk about why we hate the Turks, the Albanians, and the Gypsies. And sure fucking enough, they all found it interesting. Also, my dad worked at a restaurant. My dad also was like, listen, you can make a friend with any black person if you give them beef ribs. And I'm like, that is insanely racist. To this day, I've never met a black friend that has not been super appreciative of beef ribs. So,
some of these things,
they've helped me move afterwards.
Yeah, like honestly, it is really so okay. So my neighborhood in Queens, the migrant camp showed up. My mom almost immediately became a Trump supporter, like almost immediately. And it's the craziest thing is like. My mom, she's
describe your mom for people.
Okay, she's like really short. She's like 5'1", tiny little Indian lady, speaks with an accent, and she is so pro-Trump. It's actually hilarious. Like,
do you like have to keep like a low profile in public when you're around her? Like, does that are you worried that damages your comedy career?
Dennis, my mom was trying to order MAGA merch.
Dude, she's Indian, so she was haggling and looking for promo codes and shit.
And I was like, Mom, you can't wear this. You might get somebody might, like, you know what I mean? Like, especially in New York, you can't walk around in that kind of stuff. Like, something might happen, especially where she, you know, she works still in Jamaica Avenue, where you can't. And so when we came to Arizona, I was like, Mom, if you want to order the MAGA merch, you can wear it in Arizona. If you want. I want her to
Bro,
be
they'll
happy.
collect her like Pokemon out here.
She's had a hard life, okay? If it gives her joy to wear MAGA merch, let her have that joy.
See,
That's how I feel.
See, I don't know if your mom like really supports Trump or if she sees the writing on the walls. Because like my dad was an illegal immigrant for a long time. He got a citizenship this year. Like we fight, but like 30.
No, my
30
mom was like a legal citizen.
Yeah, no,
she did everything by the
Indians
book.
usually are.
Yeah,
just
she did everything by the book.
because the way the trek works. But I think there's just a thing though when you're like immigrant mentality. You're like, I'm gonna blend, motherfucker. Like they're not gonna catch me. Like my dad, you will catch him on a day watching NASCAR, drinking domestic beer. Wearing camo. Like, you'll talk to him and you'll be like, that is the strangest sounding Mexican I've ever heard.
My mom tries to blend. It's hard though. Like she's like a little Indian lady. She has a little bit of an accent. It's funny though. She tries to like do the same lingo that I do. So you know, she heard me on the phone the other day saying like, "Oh, I'm at my sister's place and we're in the mountains. I'm just chilling." And she got on the phone with one of her friends the next day, and she was like, I'm visiting my daughter, and it's very chilly over here." And I was like, okay, she's saying it's this exact same thing that I was saying, like I'm chilling, but she was like, it's very chilly.
Oh, that's fucking amazing.
But she loves, it's not even, she loves Donald Trump. Like she is obsessed with Donald Trump. She woke up at 2 a.m. to watch him give his acceptance speech live on election night. And it's actually funny. I wasn't, as an Indian woman, I was like, oh, my mom probably likes Kamala. You know, I would have expected my mother to be like, "Oh yeah, Kamala, that's our people."
Right? You would think like first possible person of Indian descent to be president.
Yeah, I thought my mom would be excited by that. You know, I was excited when she became the vice president. I was genuinely very excited when she became the vice president. But when she got that presidential nom, I was like, I don't know about this.
So I do feel bad for you.
I don't know about all this.
I do feel bad for you that she lost because your Kamala is so goddamn sharp. You know what I mean? Like I hope for your sake she runs for governor of California or something.
Same.
So you can dust that off because your Kamala is so fucking clean. I remember we were it was after Skankfest and you were doing the bit, and I'm not going to spoil the bit because I know it's actually going to get public. I know we're posting clips of it soon. But I remember you did it, and I just remember like snapping out of all the adrenaline and haze and intoxication and just being like, do that again. Do that again. Like, do that again. Holy fuck. So, because like that's the thing too, is it's like you're it's so clean that I remember just being like, well, if she wins, you're gonna be set. Like you could possibly get an SNL spot at that. Like it's so good.
Well, see, the thing is, it kind of fell into my lap. I've never been an impressions person. I've never been an impressions person. I really can't do impressions. But the Kamala thing, she's half black, she's half Indian. She speaks with this like kind of annoying accent because she was like in sororities and stuff and whatever. And like, I was like, this is actually all coming very naturally to me.
Yeah.
I basically have to just make a few adjustments to my normal speech.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking Kamala. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, well, because yours is like a little bit more of like a hood Kamala too.
Yeah,
where it's because
you know nobody's doing that angle.
Well, no, but it's also a thing. Except Kamala, she does that like in Detroit and Milwaukee,
depending on where she is. She does it.
Like that's the funniest part. You do Kamala in front of a black audience, like just.
No, but the thing is, like I've seen a lot of people do different Kamalas, and they're doing very sterile Kamalas.
Yeah,
because Kamala is a sterile Kamala.
Well, that's the thing too, though. I think because you see a lot of people doing it in New York. And I kind of feel like a lot of people are afraid to really take the gloves off and go for it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Especially with the urban angle. It's just like, let's be real. At the end of the day, Kamala, she's half black, she's half Indian, she's a woman of color. Like, where is the flavor. Where is the flavor?
Yeah.
And I located the flavor.
Yeah, I know
And
you, dude. That's a vein that you're very well into. I gotta acknowledge.
No.
Because it's like, and because I remember I saw you do it. Like we were fucking smashed, right? After Skankfest, after Naked Roast, like we were pretty wrecked, and just like
absolutely.
watching you riff it was hilarious, and then like watching you do it the other day, like and doing it and then adjusting it and then doing it and then adjusting, I was just like, God damn, that's fucking clean. So I do hope something, because I just remember I was like, yeah, if she wins, you're gonna be you're gonna be able to do a channel or something off that. And I mean, maybe she'll do something else, and you'll get to bring it back. You get to bring it back every once in a while. But goddamn, that was so good watching you do that.
I had such a fun run doing Kamala stuff. Like, shout out Idris Live. Follow him on all the things. But Idris, he does a black Trump.
Oh,
which is so
those.
refreshing.
I saw those.
Which is so refreshing. So it was a really fun place for me to do an urban Kamala. Honestly,
Yeah.
And
I saw the one of you guys on the subway.
There's actually no. I haven't seen any Indian people do a Kamala take either.
I can understand that though, because I feel like there are two types of Indian people with the
white Indian people and black Indian people.
That's a take, but the demarcation line that I think for me are the people that love her and are vocal about it, hate her, lie about it. Because you know what I mean. I feel like there probably is a lot of Indian pressure, like familial wise, to be all for it, and then the people that don't are just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, my mom openly hates her. My mom openly hates her because of her accent.
I feel like I want to know more about that, because how old's your mom?
72.
So like they're like similar ages. Like, I feel like they fucked the same Rajesh at some point or something, and your mom's not saying it.
I know. And so, like, in my mind, I was like, this is the kind of person that, like, my mom should like.
Right.
But even my mom was like, I don't know about this bitch.
Is it hard? Like, do you like, because you're a New York-based comic, obviously. I know you've maybe been flirting with the idea of moving to Austin, which obviously I would be for, because I'd rather have you closer to Phoenix and, less time. But, like, is it a weird thing for you to tell people that your mom's a Trump supporter? Like, because I'm sure that has to come up in New York.
Bro. I have so many jokes about it, and I want to do jokes about it. I just can't in New York. I can't, because
you'd have to go to Staten Island.
You'd have to go to Staten Island to do those jokes, or Long Island.
Maybe parts of Connecticut.
Maybe even upstate.
You're getting out of the boroughs, though.
You're getting out of the boroughs, and the thing is, like, to tell people that your parents support Trump or your mother supports Trump or whatever, I'm just like, it's just so, it's hard out there. It's in the PC culture arena. It gets a little bit tough to figure out, like, and the thing is, I try not to get too tied up into how people perceive me. I think as a comic, anybody that's like trying to do anything that's in the public eye, getting too caught up in how you're perceived by people can really mess with whatever the thing is you're trying to do in the first place. So I'm just trying to be in a place where I think I can be as free of speech as possible, without being like judged for it, honestly. Like, yeah, is my mom like a 5-foot tiny little Indian lady that moved to New York in the 1980 that is obsessed with Trump now? Absolutely. For me, I think it's hilarious because it's her immigrant story came full circle. She became a Republican white man.
Do you know what it is, though? It's because you're a family of Patels, right?
Yeah.
So he's just the greatest hotel owner that ever existed.
Oh my God!
That's just, you're just like, your mom's not racist. She's just looking up to the Mac of owning all the hotels. She's just like, she's just like, I want the big one made of gold.
Dennis, that's the best take I've ever fucking heard. That's the best. That's why Indian people like Trump.
Dude, that's how
you cracked the code. You cracked it.
Because here's the thing, like if you're a liberal and someone like my mom voted for Trump, she's Indian, and you're type and you got a big old type butthole about it, I get it.
No,
but if
but-
they come around the corner and they're like, it's because he owns all the Patels and all. That joke does require a lot of context though, because you need to know that the Patels were the sect of Indians that came over from like
Yeah.
the merchant class caste that bought hotels, and that's what they did. And it's so that's
You'd
like
have
that's
to know.
you know what I mean, like there's a whole lot in there, but it's like if you get all that and you refuse to laugh at it, you should just fuck off. Like
Oh
you
my
don't
God.
you don't belong around a comedy club.
Shout
anymore.
out the Republican Indians. But so my mom has said it's because first of all, my mom is not pro-migrant. She was like, look, we did it by the book, and she just feels like it's not fair that all these people get
See,
to
I totally get that.
Yeah.
If you paid a bunch of money and you had to wait and you came over.
Did
My
everything by the
dad was
book.
on a merchant marine boat, came here illegally, knocked up a white woman, and then was just like, and then like hid for a while, and then got a working visa, and then like got a green card, and then got a thing. And my dad is also like, no more migrants. And I'm like, you did all that shit. And he's like, yeah. He's like,
Yeah, but no more.
Yeah, my dad will be like, the boat is full. And I'll be like, well, you're just pulling up the ladder behind you. And he's like, yeah, you have to pull up the ladder at some point or the boat sinks. And I'm like, that is fucked up.
You know
it's kind of
what's-
accurate, but it's fucked up. And I don't know how to, like, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm in that weird generation of immigrants where it's like we made our way to psychedelics and I feel bad for everybody and try and have empathy.
Yeah.
But you've also done enough like Adderall where you're like, yeah, I mean, you're making a point that I can't get around. Like,
This might come off sounding really fucking bigoted, but
we'll tag this for an editing note.
so
Go ahead.
So the thing is, I mentioned that the neighborhood I grew up in was very Irish and Italian, and the Indian people moved in. The Irish and Italians they weren't obsessed with it, but they were like, these people are fine. They're pretty peaceful. They're pretty chill, and they didn't like us. They didn't like us at first, and now that all the migrants have moved into that neighborhood, they're like, oh, these Indians weren't so bad.
Yeah. No, that is a thing. That is a
They're
thing.
like, these Indians were actually pretty
and
chill.
so
Oh.
there is a Chicago, I guess, lateral or like adjacent type thing. And a friend of mine was explaining this to me, and because it was Greeks and blacks, and it was like, and then Arabs moved in and took over like the swaths of the neighborhoods. And it's like, I've been out here for so long. I don't have a racial thing. I have a lot of Arabic friends. I have a lot of Chaldean friends. I have a lot of Iranian friends, just because a lot of people come from all over the place in Benjamin, Arizona. And luckily I moved out here when I was like 6. So it's like, I don't have it, but I'll go home and I'll visit some friends. And you have not heard the type, you can't like really press yourself for the type of racism that can come out of a 76-year-old black dude. You know what I mean? That's not at white people, because it's like anything, like, because in my mind, anything like an old black person says about white people, I'm like, yeah, we had that coming. Like, come on. But it's like but it's just like you start hearing them talk about like anything, and it's just like a different culture, and you're like, I can't. It's like, dude, it's like a car crash that's on fire. You can't look away, and you know it's wrong, but you're just locked in.
Yeah. And it's not, his experience is his experience.
For sure.
You know, and there's no, that's the thing is like,
Also, we don't use his experience as an experience for other racism. We like it's like the white guy sitting at Thanksgiving that's just like, I sure do miss slavery. Like we wouldn't do it for that. But I think that is a thing, like with like the black population. It's like, yeah, they should be allowed to just feel however they want to feel.
And it's really funny because I feel like it's all very relative.
It is.
It's relative
It is
to
in a sense, right?
the times. It's relative to where you grew up. It's relative to what you experienced in your life, Like
Well,
for my
'cause
mom, she's basically become an old white man.
Yeah.
She now, she came into the country as like an Indian woman who didn't really speak the language, felt very other, my mom has actually told me stories of like when she was walking around in Queens with my sister as a kid, and she would get her chain snatched off of her. She had her chain snatched off of her neck, and somebody was running past her, snatched her chain and kept running. And she said that she She was holding a pie of pizza, which is so Queens.
Yeah.
She was holding a pie of pizza. She
The fact
dropped
you guys
it.
call it a pie of pizza.
She dropped it to chase the guy. And then she realized she wasn't going to catch him, and she felt so defeated. So my mom's had these like really low moments of being like a defeated immigrant. And to go from
in
that,
fairness, though, anybody can get their chain snatched.
that's true.
Like,
That's true. Indian women be wearing a lot of golds. That's a thing.
That's okay. Yeah, that is a ruffle to the story.
Yeah, and to go from that to her being like, you know, she owns her house in Queens, and now she's like, oh, these people coming through, these immigrants coming through.
Bro,
and
she hates she's like pro gentrification and against.
yeah, she hates the immigrants. Oh my God. And she is like, I need Trump to be the president because the last time he was president, my portfolio was doing fantastic. And I was like, oh my God, you're thinking about your retirement portfolio, Mom. That's what you're.
Well, that's pretty Indian. I mean, I don't know if that's
very Indian. And my mom is slowly becoming a white man. That's what my mom came to America, and she became a white man, which is the dream.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, that is what the goal is. See, that's the problem with true American racism is there's just not enough black people that have been able to become white men. That's the part of it that's fucked up is because you've had so many generations of people come in and deal with racism, but they overcome, they get together, and then then you find them as part of the ruling class. Then they're CEOs somewhere, then they're doing stuff. But the same buddy's uncle who told me the crazy stuff about Arabs, I had to be like 9, and he was like, the CIA sold crack in the inner cities and then to ruin the black population and then arrest all the dads to ruin our families. And I remember being like, this guy's fucking crazy. And then like 20 years later, they made a show on it on FX, and they're like, this is what actually happened. The fucking crack law, just like inner city crack wars, the crime bill. And I'm just like, okay, because there's the part of me that was raised by an immigrant that's like, yeah, I don't like the idea of reparations. I don't think it'll help people. But then there's also the part of me that's like really into history. And I'm like, slavery was a long time ago, but the CIA probably killing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King didn't seem to be, and redlining with the banking industries and the crime bill and literally selling crack in the inner cities. It's like, we didn't really do that to any other immigrants. And like, I mean, black people, it's weird to call black people immigrants since they were like forced immigrants, but it's like, there's a part of me where I'm like, look, I don't know. Like, I'm like, I know that I'm against one thing because it doesn't sound right, but I also know it's like the status quo doesn't exactly seem right. So I think we should just let them maybe identify as Indian and then just treat them as Indian for a while and let them be white men. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
Oh, I don't know. The thing is, my mom also like worked, these government jobs where the majority of the people she works with was black people. And, she worked she's been working in the same housing department office for like 30 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And some of her best friends are black women. Like, and it's actually, I don't know, people need to hear this, but there's a lot of older black women who didn't support Kamala as well. There's a lot of older black women that voted for Trump as well.
Yeah. It's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't like, because here's the thing, like,
and the black community I'm not supposed to speak on. I'm not to speak on it, but what I'm privy to, what I know is there was a good amount of black people that supported Trump.
Bend your mic back a little bit. That was the weirdest thing about this though, is because I've got friends, and it's very weird, especially in comedy, and because it's like, I'm in comedy, I do a lot. I have a lot of music friends, like producers, DJs, musicians and stuff of that nature, and and then you get into like people that are acting or in production, or especially on the other side of the camera, because that's like always been like my thing is I've always been friends with production people. So it's like, oh hey, you put on Ultra, or if you put on an Ultra or an EDC or etc. It's like, hey, you can know a DJ, that's cool, but I know the guy that has all the wristbands that's allowed to set off the fire or do the foam, So it's like I've always been around, and it's weird where there's kind of this thing in like any creative art. It's like a lot of the people that actually do the shit are closet Republicans, and it's like, and it's kind of like, well, like why? And they're like, and it's not because they like anything Republicans say, it's because they've grown so disillusioned with Democrats. And that's like, that is just devastating to hear when you're like, oh, well, why would you like that? And it's like, oh, it's a hate vote. Like, what? Yeah, I hate my party. I've hated them for 12 years now, and I'm fucking. And it's like it's fucking wild. You know what I mean?
Well, there's just no middle anymore. It's actually a fucked up time. Like, I actually low-key identify as a libertarian. I actually low-key identify as a fucking communist. And
a communist libertarian?
Yeah, and I see the world, like, anybody who's read anything Karl Marx, everything that's happened in the last year, I'm not surprised by.
Oh yeah, the AI stuff, because that's what he's thinking is like it'll take over and all that. So it's like I identify as a libertarian, but I don't know if you followed politics like the last year. The Libertarian Party went batshit crazy. They've always been kind of batshit crazy. It's been a protest vote, but it's always been like that's probably the best way for people.
Why
to
are
govern
libertarians the middle right now? Like that's great. The libertarians are the middle right now.
Well, that's just because you have such extreme left wing and right wing libertarians.
Yeah.
That it's like anybody in like the vein at least seems like they're making a little bit of sense. You know, it's still fucking so strange. Like it's so strange to just be at a spot where, like, the person that had the nominee for the Democratic National Convention literally had to be like, yeah, I filled out a form for the ACLU that says I support taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners. And I remember when I saw that, I was like, dude, that is such a good Onion meme. You know what I mean? Like, I saw it, went about my day, it came up later, and I was like, oh, that guy fucking read that Onion article and thought it was real life. And it was like, oh, that was a real fucking, oh, God. Like, how? And then, you know, because it's like we live in such a crazy time where it's, and here's the other thing too, is it's like that's the way the system is designed, was to basically, because like political parties aren't in the Constitution, they don't exist. They went to the Supreme Court and we're like, yeah, it's a relic of how we get to do things, but they're not supposed to be able, they're not supposed to, like, also when someone runs for president, the president is the person with the most amount of votes, and the vice president had the second most amount of votes. That's how it was, and then that changed. Like that's how the Constitution's written. And then they changed that, so it's like, yeah, the party gets to take over. Which, I mean, I guess you don't want one side shooting the other president, being like, our guy's up. Because then you just get, like, a Japanese-style imperial government in the, like, 40s and 30s. But yeah, no, but it's so fucking weird when you're just like, yeah, this is, like, the best system on the planet, and it's still super fucked up. And then you start thinking about, like, well, how fucked up is it?
This system sucks.
Yeah, and then you think about, like, how fucked up is stuff everywhere else. You know what I mean? Because it's like parliamentary systems are fucking crazy to me when you're like, okay, you're going to vote for your parliament party, and then they're going to get together and decide who's in charge. It's like, wait, what? Yeah, only the party insiders get to do that. And it's just like...
You know what's fucked up about the U.S., though, is, like, politics became entertainment at a certain point. And
24-hour news cycle. That's when it started. The moment you had to pay for basic cable.
Social media.
Well, it started with social media. Social media exacerbated it because then you had so many more points of interaction.
Like all that budget that got spent for this last election cycle was marketing budget mostly for social media. Like, let's be real. Like, Facebook and Google got a lot of those dollars.
That's the craziest thing with the Kamala campaign is they raised $1 billion+
insane,
and they ended $20 million in debt. So here's one thing: if you can't run a campaign, you probably can't run a country. I think that's like a fair thing to say. But it's also like now you're looking back at what happened, and it's just so incredibly American because the same thing happened in the pandemic too, where it was like there was this big fucking stack of money, and so the political consultants get paid a percentage of the ads, like the ad buys that they purchase and like go on. So it's like, hey, you purchased $2 million of that, I'm gonna walk away with $20,000.
Yeah.
So it's like everyone has their hand in a cookie jar, and then we're wondering like, well, why can't we get like a real representative government of the people that? Because the part where I was like, when I started becoming a libertarian in 2012, there was a Stanford study that basically said there's like low to no correlation, not zero, but low to no correlation between what the prevailing popular opinion of the populace is versus what laws actually get enacted. Because it's just all based on like lobbying dollars and et cetera, and like that's how things become a law. And it's just like, all right, what are we fucking doing? Like, and then it's also this crazy thing where we live in a country where everyone's like, this is bullshit. We know it's bullshit. And stuff just happens so quickly and fast. Where I remember, like, before COVID, it was Jeffrey Epstein. And it was like, there's a pedophile island where, like, they're blackmailing people. And it's like, okay, that's fucking crazy. It's like, yeah, okay, sure, something has to do with something with the Mossad because people hate the Jews. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, Jeffrey Epstein's, like, fucking bottom bitch. Her dad was the head of the Mossad. And then you're like, well, that's fucking nuts. Well, this guy's in jail. Oh, he killed himself. Weird. Oh, it's COVID. No one's talking about that anymore. Hey, COVID probably came from a lab. Now we're not going to talk about that anymore. Now there's a war in Ukraine. And it's just like, what? Oh, now there's inflation. And it's just like, what the? Well, can we talk about that thing 5 things ago? No one had, like, people are drowning financially, so no one can focus on it. It's just like, I don't know if it's all conspiracy or if we live in a simulation, but something's fucking weird.
Bro, we live in a simulation. Everything that's happening is to divert our attention from other things. Absolutely.
I do kind of feel like sometimes
the media is bought. Let's be real. I know that the media is bought because the way that the media is representing this whole Luigi Mangione situation is so funny.
This was an extremely interesting thing because we're
the entire internet is so pro Luigi.
Well, here's the thing too, though. You came to Arizona and then you did this joke yesterday, right?
Yeah,
or the day
it
before?
was literally yesterday.
Okay, it was yesterday. The days are running together. We've been building the studio and doing all this shit, so my brain's foggy. But so you came and you did the Luigi joke, and you're like, 2 people, weird. Because in New York, everyone's like, yeah, fucking burn this shit.
So pro Luigi.
And in Arizona, people are like
watching the news.
Well, no, in Arizona, I think a lot of people are like, yeah, but they're not publicly about it. Because there's a lot of people that are like low key, like, yeah, fuck them. You know what I mean? But they're not going to say it.
When I listened back to that, so I did a voice recording of my set.
Yeah.
So when I listened back to that joke, there were some low key like woos.
Yeah.
Coming from the back,
but
and I should have addressed them.
Real muted. Yeah.
Very muted. And then as soon as they realized that nobody else was about it, they immediately stopped.
Yeah.
But when I listened back to the voice record, that's the only way I would have known.
Yeah, I was telling a joke the other day, and it's not ready for prime time, so I don't really care about putting it out here. But I was like, listen, if you kill my grandmother with a Volkswagen, a bullet, or by denying her medical claims, I'm still gonna hate you. And now if one of those just happens to be more profitable for you, I'm gonna hate you more if that's the one that happened. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. The thing is, the news is portraying him like this like terrible person, and it's you know what the thing is?
Well, I mean,
the news is like, we don't know what the motivation was for the killer, and the internet is like, bitch, what are you talking about? We know what the motivation. Look, and this is the motivation. What are you talking about?
So I struggle with this because as a libertarian, like one of the core tenets of being a libertarian is the non-aggression principle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, if you don't harm anyone, live your life and go through it. And it's like, well, this kid, he shot a husband and a father like in the back while he was walking down the street, and it's like, that's fucked up. You know what I mean? And I think that's
was symbolic
for sure. And now it does. I get that standpoint, but it's like when you drill down to the fact that it's like, yeah, they killed it like in cold blood at the very least, right?
Yeah.
Now you can say, hey, you work for an evil industry. It goes but the moral argument then becomes, well, how far down from the C-suite do you get to execute and have it still be moral? Because it's like, well, if you kill an account manager that actually denies someone's thing, is that now immoral? And now like that's where I'm like, okay, well, for argument's sake, I'm going to say yes, it's obviously immoral, but even shooting that guy in the back is immoral. But it's also that thing where you're like, hey,
it was also that man's karma.
For sure. You know what I mean? That's the thing. That's the thing you got to think about, because that guy also was in a different scam where he did a stock rug pull where like hundreds of millions of dollars people got screwed out of, or tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
I have to read the exact. I don't want to misquote that. But anyway, it's like the guy wasn't an angel, but it's still like, hey, he's got a wife, he's got a kid, they feel bad for it. But the thing that you're hearing now is it's like, well, all these cities are going to make CEO task forces to keep the CEO safe. And it's just like, hey, guys.
I'm rolling my eyes so hard I might give myself a seizure.
But it's like after the Titanic hit the iceberg, they're like, well, we're going to go and we're going to make sure that we've got buckets to get the water out after we hit the iceberg. It's like, you guys are you're steering at an iceberg. And I don't know if you don't read enough history to know that it's like, the guillotines come out real quick when everybody gets together, and it's like if enough people get, that's why the news has to be like
dialectical process.
Yeah, exactly. The news has to be like, this is terrible and horrible, and we're not part of it, because it's like, how quick until the news is going to be reporting, this is where these guys are, we have nothing, get them.
Yeah. So I've read enough capitalists. I've read enough communist texts to know where this is all headed. And Karl Marx's whole thing was about the dialectical process, that all of these different systems that we come up with over time come to a breaking point where the people realize they're being exploited and they get overturned every single fucking time. And it happened so many times throughout history. There used to be something, feudalism. Feudalism used to be a thing. And that got overturned in the same way. And it's never pretty. Revolutions are never absolutely pretty.
Well, no one ever wins a revolution, as the great Dan Brown, I think, said. It's like you don't maybe a couple generations later.
It's just a breaking point.
I mean, because
it's a breaking point that's being reached, and we feel it.
Well, and the thing is too, though, it's like if you look at history, it doesn't always end with bullets and guillotines and all that, because it's like it wasn't too long ago in America we had the Gilded Age, which is actually the scary part is we're kind of reaching levels of wealth disparity that were similar to the Gilded Age. But it's like, yeah, so you go through, you have a populist uprising, and then you get unions, and you get weekends and holidays and all this stuff, and then eventually PTO, and then everyone gets complacent for a while, and then it's like,
now we want more.
Everything's doing well, and then it's just like, well, there's all this structure, but it's also this crazy thing where it's just like, again, we have what's the best system so far. And it's crazy and that's not like a prop of how good we're doing. That's an indictment of how bad everything else is doing. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, okay, so that's the best system. And then you can be like, well, yeah, but you have socialized medicine in European countries, and it's like you only have that because they don't have to pay for their own defense. And then it's like now that they are paying for their own defense, all their socialized Medicare is starting to really struggle. And it's just kind of like, well, where does it go? It's like, well, it usually ends up with people eating each other. It's fucking.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if what we got is the best thing. I really don't.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think it's the best possible thing. I think it's the best by comparison.
And my opinion on the whole Luigi thing, as Luigi Mangione killing that one CEO with those 3 bullets, with those words inscribed in it, for me, that was perfect. That was art. That was beautiful. That was chef's kiss. Amazing. But the thing that scares me about that is people being influenced by that and doing similar things.
Well,
that's the part that scares me.
Well,
and
that's the thing too, though.
And
that's the whole part about civilization, though, is we all have made an agreement to not do that, right? We've all made an agreement to like, yeah, someone does something fucked up, we let the system work it out, and it's imperfect. But it prevents blood feuds and things like that. Yeah. Because it's like, what's the next thing? It's like, okay.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so it was okay to kill a CEO. What is it okay to kill a firefighter that failed at dragging your mother out of a house?
Exactly. And so it becomes like that level of like subjectiveness gets put into the mix, and now people think that they can be the people that dole out justice, and that's the part where it gets really scary, and that's the part that I'm scared of. But ultimately, what happened with Luigi and that CEO, I just saw that as karma at play in its finest form, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
karma is a real fucking thing, people.
Well, and here's the thing, like, it's hard it's hard to be like, listen, if your company denies a lot of people health care for the sake of profit, and that leads to their deaths, it's kind of like...
And you took that job knowing that your job was
to figure out a way to maximize your profit and turn stuff down.
You took that job. Do you know why I never became a doctor as an Indian person? It's not because I'm not smart enough to be a doctor. It's just I knew that I could not deal with doing those kinds of life and death those kinds of life and death decisions. I knew that I wasn't cut out for that. I knew that like watching people die because they couldn't pay this bill or they can't afford it would kill me. It would hurt me so, it would harm me so much that I wouldn't be able to handle it. That's why I didn't become a fucking doctor. Not because I would love to help people. If being a doctor was just helping people all day, all the time, I would have became a doctor for sure. But that's not what it is. Yeah, I mean, there is very much an interesting thing when you think about like what the consequences of this whole thing is going to be, because it's like the news has to spin it of this is malicious and evil and etc. And they have to. Well, and here's the thing too. They're being paid to spin it that way. But to a certain
extent, though, it is an evil act. Shooting somebody in the back in cold blood, regardless of your justification, is objectively an evil act. Now, but also, so is droning a funeral in Iraq. So is bombing a crossing in Rafah. so is, you know what I mean? So there's just
What
things
is
where it's like-
morality even?
yeah, well,
what
no, but
is it?
Well, I think morality is pretty easy to define, but it's the thing where it's like we're constantly stepping over that line in other places, and we say it's for national security and et cetera. And what this thing exposes more than anything is it exposes the class divide, because the same way that it's now there are Indian women and black dudes voting for Trump, is that same circumstance. Like it's harder and harder to divide us by race. And it's going to be more and more divided by class. And that's the thing that we try and stray away from in America as hard as possible because, well, we're kind of built on a class pyramid here.
And that's what the media is actually scared of because we're low-key realizing that the left and the right and all of this stuff, it's really, and the black versus white, like it's all just a distraction from the class divide.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ultimately,
Well, and here's the thing with the news too is like if you ever watched like the compilation of like brought to you by Pfizer, and it's every news company, and it's like they don't advertise any. Yeah, dude, it's Ozempic, and and here's the thing too, it's like, hey, we're gonna sell you shitty food that's ultra processed with chemicals in it. Then we're gonna sell you Ozempic, which we don't know is what the effect it's gonna have on people 20 years from now, or happening out to them. And then it's just like we're just gonna continue to extract wealth from people, and then it's just like, well, eventually you're gonna hit a boiling point. And now we're at this weird spot where it's kind of like, well, what do you do? How do you even fix it? Because it's also like, if all of a sudden we fix things after we shoot that CEO, then it's like, well, that's the thing that caused the tipping point for things to change. So it's like, was it ultimately? So it's like, you can't say it's an evil act if it caused some good, or can you? Because it's like if you drone a terrorist's funeral and you kill their wife and kids, but you also kill 6 other terrorists that prevent, school bombings or traffic bombings or whatever. It's like, what? Like morality isn't like that's the point though. We end up in this really weird position of dealing with morality, where you're like, okay, well, how does it work? But that was the thing though, and that's the part that I took away from it at the show the other night. Is it's like you're used to doing shows in New York where people are probably on like the more middle class side of things. We were in Westgate, which is right next to the football stadium in the Glendale area rather, which is right outside of Metro Phoenix, and it's like those were probably wealthier people, at least in the sense that the people that are coming up to the stadium to watch that, and like that was the part that was really interesting to me, because I was like, wow. And there were black people, there were Mexicans, there were white people in there. And it was like, you could tell by the way people were dressed who was saying woo or not. And that was the interesting part.
It was very interesting for me too. It was my first time doing comedy in Phoenix. And it was a roast of 2024. So it wasn't a lot of my typical material. I think the audience actually really liked a lot more of my reaction to their reactions than they liked my jokes, which I was like, okay, so they like me, they just don't like what I'm saying. Like it's
well, and I mean, I think that's always interesting too when you see somebody come from one region and then they're in a different one. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the thing where you start seeing like the really polished comedians. It's like they can drop into any water, any region, any place, and kind of float and swim. But it was very interesting. But that is that whole thing though right now where it's just like, well, we're in this weird place where people can't believe Trump is president again. People also can't believe that Biden was.
I can believe it.
Yeah, but it was also just a thing where it's like when it ended like 4 years ago, you're like, well, that's like the past. We're moving on to the next thing. It's like, well, we went to that,
and we're going back.
Also, I do wonder just how much of it is just like Joe Biden being so incredibly old.
Joe Biden, the Democrats, there's gotta be something better out there. Well, there's gotta be something better out there. And like, as much as like, as an Indian girl, I would love to see like an Indian woman be president, because honestly, Indian women, we're fucking amazing. We're fucking amazing. Also,
the country's super in debt, and an Indian probably should be in charge.
Yeah. Indian women know how to handle money. Mm-hmm. They're very forward thinking. They've been running the households in India.
It's insane to me that everybody at the DOD that does procurement isn't an Indian woman.
For real. She would haggle the fuck
out of an
everything.
F-35 or whatever
yeah,
it is.
absolutely. She'd be like, no, you can get that price down. I think you can. I'm not paying $1 above this. That's what an Indian woman would say.
For sure, dude. For sure.
But, and I would have loved to see it. It's just Kamala was not the one. She was not the one. She was not the one. We need somebody who's a little bit more sure about herself.
Well, here's the thing that happens in politics usually is when parties have like bad defeats, they usually reform around new identities, which is, you saw it happen with the Republicans. Like the Republicans went from like the neocons under Bush, and then they got just demolished by Obama. And then they became, the Tea Party, and then which eventually was like the movement for like the Trump populists. Like that's where MAGA came out of. And Democrats lost really bad in 2016. They came back, they won real slightly, just the thinnest of margins with Biden. And then they were like, okay, we're good. We can still keep doing what we were doing. And then so they didn't really change. And now they lost what a lot of people would say is kind of a devastating loss. It was
a landslide.
I think it's hard to say it's a landslide.
He got every swing state.
But he didn't win by giant margins. A lot of them he won by like less than 0.5%.
He got every single one.
For sure. That is the back and forth of the argument you have to make, where you're like, oh. But all I'm saying is it's like, I don't know, was it and he won the popular vote, which is crazy for a Republican. But there's a lot of Democrats that are making the argument like, well, he only won by 7,000 votes here or 20,000 votes here, et cetera. And it's just like, I feel like they're not going to reform. I feel like they're just going to be like, we're going to keep the same playbook, and we're going to hit it harder next time. We're going to do the same exact thing.
And that's what they did.
Well, I'm worried they're going to do that into the next one.
Bro.
Because it's kind of like if you're a Democrat right now, you have to wonder how Nancy Pelosi is still de facto running the party, how Chuck Schumer's still in charge of the Senate, how all like the old like if you're a Democrat, which is supposed to be they lost a lot of youth vote this time, and you're like, how are so many old motherfuckers running this party that isn't doing that good? Like, how has no one thrown them out and started like some new shit? Like that is an undeniable question that I'd get into. But I don't know. We started really fun talking about Skankfest and like the naked roast, and people are going to be listening to this, and they're going to be
wait. We have to. Okay, so this is actually going to tie everything together right now.
Okay, I'm curious.
When I first walked into Skankfest, so I arrived to Vegas. I get into my Airbnb. I get dressed. I get to this party. I walk in. The first thing I see on stage is Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yes.
And he was doing almost word for word the exact same set that he did at the fucking...
So that was the part. I watched that shit in real time, and I've heard him tell that joke a number of times.
Same.
Like the Puerto Rican thing, and it's
killed at Skankfest.
And for inside stuff, Lewis is Puerto Rican.
I know.
Right? So it's like him making a joke about Puerto Ricans, like it comes in. Like dude, that thing fucking leveled at Skankfest. But I knew the joke, and I was watching the convention, and I like politics, obviously. So I'm watching it, and I was fucking and also I was fucking geeked to see Tony Hinchcliffe there, because it's just like
I know.
Because it's like one side of the political spectrum has pop music, right? So it's like Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift are Democratic, and all these high-end comedians are Republican, which is still crazy to me, because when I was a kid, Republicans didn't want people to say anything. You didn't offend people. Like, it was rude. You have freedom of speech, but you had to be... It was a privilege and not, like a thing. And then now it's like, yeah, they've got Tony Hinchcliffe on stage at Madison Square Garden. Like, whoa. And then I remember, because I know the setup for that joke. And I'm just like, oh, no. Oh, don't do that. Oh. And it did, like, and it people laughed at it in the thing. Like, they were, like, pretending like that joke bombed. And it was like, it didn't crush, but it got some laughs. You know what I mean? Like, there were people that were laughing, and then there were people that were, like, concerned about it.
For 3 p.m., that was a good laugh.
That's so fucking true, doing 3 p.m. as the only person doing comedy to like a cold crowd. But yeah, no, that actually was the fucking the highlight of that. It's just being like, oh, Tony, oh no. And then I also that's the other thing too, though, is because like when we were going into it, I remember being pretty confident. I was like, I think Trump's gonna take this. Biden's old. Everyone's gonna feel lied to. There's a bunch of inflation. And then like the media coverage the last 10 days, I was like, wow, Kamala might pull this off, having not had to win a primary, which I think is like terrible for the democratic process.
Terrible.
If you can just win. And then it was just like, oh no, it was a fucking arguably a landslide in the other direction that no one was surprised about, except the bookies. Like the people, like the bookies were like, yeah, no, it's Trump by like 7-3 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it was like a huge margin for the gambling. And then I just remember being like, oh yeah, the media lies to me all the time. I was like, I'm still waiting for those weapons of mass destruction and the fucking the COVID bat that gave everyone COVID. Just like, how do I keep fucking falling for this shit?
Dude, honestly, so I was actually getting dressed to go to a show. And I just had like, I just had like something on, and I saw like a clip of it on social media of like Tony. It was Sunday night, and I was on my way to a roast battle, and I saw a clip of Tony at this fucking Republican National Convention, and I was like, "There's no way this is real. This is a deep fake."
Dude, you
I was like,
constantly
this is
are
a
just
deep
like,
fake
we're in
for
a
sure.
simulation.
This is a simulation. We're in a deep fake.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's what's happening. And then I Googled it, and I was like, oh shit, this is real.
I think we're pretty much tight on time here, but I'm gonna pitch you something before we break, and it's that I think what we are is we're in a game of The Sims, but it's like a game of The Sims that someone's been playing for a really long time, and now they're like, okay, just let it go off the rails, and so I can start a new one. God is an angry adolescent middle schooler who's moving on.
A little bit, for sure. For sure.
All right.
But I saw it and I was like, oh my God. And the craziest part for me was that the next day my mom was like, do you know this guy? And I was like, I do. This is because my mom was like, it was on the news.
Yeah.
It was,
no, it was everywhere, dude.
Every day.
It was everywhere. It was like Republicans hate Puerto Ricans, and we're just like, okay.
I
all
never.
right.
It felt like my nightlife and my day life colliding at the same time, and I was like, "This is fucking crazy." My mother just asked me if I knew who Tony Hinchcliffe was.
Right. Oh man. Well, it's been an absolute blast. I'm excited to have you out whenever you're around, and we will do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Yeah, dude. It's been fun. I actually, you know what? I will hopefully we'll both be on Skankfest again this year. So fingers crossed we'll maybe be naked on the same stage again soon. Yeah, titties crossed. There it is. All right, that's a wrap. Thanks, folks.
We're so gay.
We're so gay.